Okay, so we are starting, and I'm just going to keep an eye on attendees. They'll start
Okay.
popping in. And like I said, I usually give 30 seconds or so for people to pop in.
All right.
And also, Priyanka, before I know we're just starting, but before I let you go, it would be good to get like some information if you're ever looking for interns or
Oh yeah,
yeah,
totally.
people. We have some really great designers who are always looking to do freelance and
That's awesome. Yeah,
yeah.
I totally always want help, but I never have time to
Yeah,
look for help, so I just do everything.
I could help you. I could help you look for it, but
That's
yeah,
cool. Okay, good to know.
great. So I think we have a good amount of people, so I'll get started here. Everybody, thank you so much for coming. Just give me one moment here. Okay,
And
just
you just
getting
see
all
my
my stuff.
PDF, right? You don't see other things?
No, I see your
Okay,
PDF. Yep, we're
cool.
good. We're good to go. Welcome. We're just getting started, everybody. Welcome to the third installment of the spring 2024 Sarah Little Turnbull Visiting Designer Speaker Series. And just to recap, if you're just popping in for the first time this semester, we've been talking about package design and how it plays a pretty vital role in shaping consumer experiences and their perceptions of value and whatnot. And through these talks, we're really trying to explore specific details and approaches behind packaging design and packaging in general. And really, I'm trying to get its significance in the broader context of design and user experience. Also, before I introduce our guest, I just want to reiterate that these talks that we're having are they're part of a class, right? They're sort of kind of like a living textbook for a package design class. It's meeting right now. They just got started today, and they're working on packaging design. Um, so it's we have students here from the class, but we're also open to the public this lecture. So we're welcoming all kinds of questions, any insights audience members have. An open dialogue is really essential in any design discussion, as Priyanka, my guest, and I both know. And especially one in which we all have firsthand experience. We're all like exposed to packaging, whether we want to be or not. So I would love to just have like a discussion about it from everybody. So without further ado, today I am really delighted to introduce our guest speaker, Priyanka Batra. She's a designer and owner behind My Darlin, a colorful Brooklyn-based paper goods studio that aims to romanticize the everyday moments through a contemporary but playful design aesthetic that we're going to be looking at today, while simultaneously evoking a sense of nostalgia, like the feeling you get when you discover a one-of-a-kind treasure or memento at a vintage shop, a love for bold colors, playful typography, vintage novelty prints, abstract pattern play, and a susceptibility to love at first sight are at the heart of the brand, which I really love. Love that part. The line has been growing pretty steadily since 2019, and it's now carried over in over 300 stores in the US as well as distribution in Australia. A little bit about Priyanka's background. She studied journalism at the University of Iowa, which I didn't know, by the way. She did
Yep.
study. I did know that she was studied graphic design at Parsons in Paris and New York. That's where I met her in the DT program. At you were in DT, right? That
Yeah.
was I didn't just imagine that yet.
Oh,
So the same graduate program,
stuff.
and
Yeah.
yeah, and she also studied typeface design at the Cooper Union, which I'm a little jealous about. Perhaps we can talk about that a little bit.
Sure.
And perhaps most important, her fashion and surface design literacy, it began at the age of 5 in her mom's closet full of, this is my favorite
Right.
part, Laura Ashley floral dresses in vibrant, colorful 80s prints. Not
The
all of us has
seed
been
was
there, but
planted early.
yeah, I get that. I see you. I see you. Um, before starting My Darling, she spent about 7 years as a freelance UX and graphic designer before weekends at a letterpress shop planted the seed that would lead to creating her own product line. So please help me welcome Priyanka to the Turnbull Visiting Designer Speaker Series. Thank you so much for being here, Priyanka. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me and thanks for the nice intro.
Sure, sure.
Um, so I will dive right in and
Mhm.
welcome to You've Got Mail, Stationery as Communication Design. And um, Dave has already introduced me. I'm Priyanka. Um, And so my company is called My Darlin, and it's all about romanticizing the everyday moments. And you already got a little bit of a preview of what I'm all about.
Yeah.
Colorful Brooklyn-based paper goods studio, romanticizing the everyday moments through a contemporary but playful design aesthetic while simultaneously evoking a sense of nostalgia. And yes, what that means, again, is that I'm just trying to chase that feeling of discovering a one-of-a-kind vintage treasure at a vintage
Yeah.
shop and taking some of that magic that's reserved for nostalgic items and trying to somehow infuse it into the new things that I'm creating, to
Mm-hmm.
create a new kind of magic that's still kind of like feels like, to me, that's magic.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, so what's happening here? PDF. So this is me. Hi. I'm standing here against some wallpaper that I designed. This is
Wow.
patterns, and this is in my daughter's room. My most professional headshot is in my daughter's room. She's 3. And here, oops, my navigation is not working. This is where the pattern originated. It was first on a greeting card. And I always tell her that I designed the pattern for her, but in reality, it existed before she was born on a card.
Mm-hmm.
It was first a wallpaper, though. And then I extrapolated one of the elements of the pattern and I turned that into a sticker. Here we have Double Daisy. And pretty soon, I'm going to be turning it into washi tape, which is a new product I started making last summer. So here is this pattern as washi tape.
What's washi tape? What is that?
So washi tape is a decorative masking tape. It's popular for people that journal or any
Okay.
stationery nerds out there.
Yeah.
Love pattern
Scrapbooking. Yeah.
scrapbooking or just taping things up. And I don't know, people do all kinds of
Yeah.
things with it. And then I'm also planning to turn it into wrapping paper later this year. So one of the things that I love about what I do is creating art and then seeing how many different things that I can put it on. Because I like to see how we can put it on these everyday things and how it can change how we interact with the object itself, the space around us, or each other. And my hope is through, this work that I'm doing, that it contributes to making our everyday lives a little bit more meaningful, beautiful, and special.
Mm.
Um, but so what exactly do I make? You got a little preview, but a little bit more specifics. I design art prints.
Mm.
I make greeting cards, lots of greeting cards, and washi tape, which is new to my line as of last summer. These are a few washi tapes and wrapping paper. And I recently started making stickers. And sometimes I get to do collaborations with brands that make non-paper things. So this is a brand
Mm.
in California who called New Works, and I did a collaboration with them a few years ago. They took 2 of my patterns and put it on a whole bunch of their clothes. These are 2
Wow.
different necks, but they put it on a million things. So that was really fun, and I hope to do more things like that. So it's cool to see how you can take your art and just put it on all kinds of things and
Yeah.
make magic when you collaborate with people. Um, so for me, the heart of the brand is not a specific product, but the ethos and drive behind it. And what that for me, that's my inspiration, which is a love for bold colors, playful typography, vintage textiles, whether it's funky novelty prints or retro florals, and of course that susceptibility to love at first sight, that kind of like that finding that amazing thing that you never thought you wanted or needed.
Yeah.
Um, and so you could also maybe say that this is my kit of parts for my brand. And when I taught a branding class at Lehman, or I think it was just a design class where we talked about
Yeah.
branding, I would
Yeah.
always quote the famous designer Paula Scher, who says, an
Hmm.
identity is a kit of parts, things you're using over and over again to define a place, things that are collectively used to make something recognizable. So my kit of parts is maybe looser than, she was talking about, because I'm not just branding my brand. Every time I have a new collection or I release new work, my brand evolves and it changes a little bit. And I want my kit of parts to inform the work I make, but also how I package it. And so I keep it kind of loose, but like the ability to evolve. So
Mhm.
I use punchy colors. I'm obsessed with patterns, pattern maximalism, I'm calling it. Typography at play. I love to play with typography. It just gives me a lot of joy. And linguistic inclinations. Like you mentioned, you didn't know I have a journalism background, but
Yeah,
I do. I like words. I love writing, and
yeah.
I just I try to infuse that into my work as well. And photographic storytelling. I love photography, and so I take my own photos and I try to extend the work that I'm doing with my products through the photography. And I'm also pretty meticulous, and I feel
Hmm.
that like that comes across in the way I do my patterns, and also I don't know, there's like a precision about the way I work, which is not always great. Sometimes maybe I'm a bit of a micromanager, but that's part of the brand. So there it is. But it also I what with that I also mean that I want to infuse just like little details wherever I can, which is going to show up in the packaging. So let's see. So we're going to start with punchy colors, and I'll walk you some of the, punchy colors from my kit of parts. So my brand has evolved a lot over the years. The photo on the left, I think, is from 2017. The photo on the right is from last year. And kind of like before that, it was around as well, and it was a bit more different. But for the most part, my color palette has stayed the same. I maybe added a few colors here and there, but I'm also not like, like Paula Scher talked about the kit of parts, and maybe her brand colors would be really precise hues. So I give myself a little bit of leeway where I break the rules a bit. I have my palette, but if it happens to be that like something is not super legible in one moment, if I need to tweak my red a slight bit to make it more legible and it still looks the same, I'm gonna be loose with myself and allow
Yeah.
myself to break that rule, and no one knows that the hue is like slightly off. So I had a teacher once tell me, like, I was trying to just mathematically position everything and be very, very precise, which I am, but he's like, you have to also just like see, you have to like use your eyes. And so
Yep.
that has like stuck with me since like, what was that,
Yep.
2004 or something. So even
Yeah.
though I work very precisely, I try to always remember that, and also just like look at what I'm looking at as a person and as a human and just see how it looks. But in general, this color palette is my brand.
Yeah.
Um, so then pattern maximalism. I am just like a pattern person. I love pattern, and I just think like I don't know why. I just always have, since I was 5, I guess. And so throughout the years, I've experimented with different types of patterns, abstract patterns, various shapes. I'm in a very much a floral era right now, but I think like the graphic nature of it and the color palette, throughout my eras still
Your
kind of like,
various eras.
yes. I think it still keeps it consistent and allows
Well,
the different pieces to work together.
let me ask you about that because like you're a lot of people talk about eras right now for reasons that go back to Taylor Swift, right? But
Yeah.
like into design, into history of design, and really art historically at large, like it proper, there are actual eras, right?
Yeah,
So
true.
my question for you would be, these things could have harkened back and to they have nostalgia to them. They harken back to a
Totally.
different time, right?
Yeah.
So where and some of them are like, if I had to, some of them are kind of Brady Bunch 70s,
Yeah.
others are kind of like early 80s.
Yeah.
Um, so my question would be is like where do you kind of look for the for inspiration for these things? Do they just pop out of your head from memory or do you do you like have sources, references you go to?
I don't specifically look at references, but I feel like I'm looking at references all the time, just in my life by looking at
Yeah.
things I like. And but then like if there's something that maybe in my mind keeps popping up again, or something I see that might, I don't know, tell me that I want to keep working on this idea, I just go to it because I don't like to like look for trends and follow the
Yeah.
trends. Sometimes I do see a trend and I'm like, I want to hop on it. Like I'm not doing bows, but I kind of really want to do bows because
Yeah.
I like a bow. So I'm gonna
Yeah.
probably hop on that trend, but that's not usually how I work. I'm not trend first. I'm like, what do I like? And I mean, my love for just vintage clothes is a big
Mm,
part of where this all comes from. And I used to want to be a fashion designer, and
mm,
I'm just super inspired by all of those kind of textiles. So
yeah.
I think that's where it comes from. And then when I start working on something, I usually have like 7,500 ideas at once. And
Mm,
so I'll be working on the thing that I'm working on, but then other ideas will emerge. And so I will sometimes pause what I'm working on to work on the side thing. And sometimes that becomes the focus, which is kind of how washi tape came about, actually. I was working on something separate, and I had a very specific goal of taking existing designs and then turning them into washi tape, but it turned into making brand new designs. And
yeah.
so sometimes it's just iterative. It's
Okay.
iterative and then just like, whatever is out there and influencing me. And
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
so that I feel like that wasn't that many examples of pattern, but you're gonna see it like throughout.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So typography at play. I have always been really into
Wow.
typography. And so from the start, I have been either working with like fonts that I thought were really interesting, or just being playful with typography. And like you had mentioned, I studied typeface design at Cooper Union.
Hmm.
I'm not making it using any typefaces that I designed myself, but I'm really like I try to use typography and fonts with care, and just use them to kind of like I don't know, bring out more emotion in the work, or just kind of, I don't know how to say it exactly, but
Yeah. I mean, it's for me, it's like each typeface has a voice,
yeah,
and that's important. It's another layer of information,
yeah.
right? And then you actually said something once. This just goes way back, but you were I think you were a guest critic in my class.
Oh,
This is before the pandemic, so this is
yeah,
another world. But you actually said something that resonated with me, which was that type is a system,
yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And you kind of mentioned this early on in your presentation today about a system of things that work together,
Right.
like the kit, right?
Yeah.
So a typeface is kind of a kit, right? And each
True.
part has to look different from each other. That's how
Yeah,
type works, but everything also has to work together like a
exactly.
system. And
Yeah.
that's kind of like where I see your literacy with type design kind of comes through because you're using not just the voice of a type, but
Yeah.
you're using its systematic property, its ability to work together to do something larger,
That's
like
true.
to some of emergent, which I really dig in your work. So that's, I
You.
think I kind of like that. And I think it's really inspiring. Like I often when I'm in class, I'll be like, we'll have like time to discuss type, but there's
Oh, that's
really,
nice.
I don't even know where to start. Like it's hard,
Yeah.
sometimes it's really hard to have that conversation. Like you just have to choose a typeface and run with it.
Yeah.
So in the process of choosing, like what's
Yeah.
that process like for you? Like when you have to,
Yeah.
what's going to nail the brand or the idea properly? What's your process there?
So, early on, like when I was working with this kind of these sans
Yeah.
typefaces, I think at first I was sort of I just well for first I wanted to use something that was like, a good typeface, and I had bought an expensive typeface to use for all of my branding, so I just wanted to
Mm,
like use that over and over, but then I did get a little bit bored by that. But if the typeface is like minimal, I
mm,
think I want to do more work to make it more playful, like in this good luck card.
yeah.
If it's a more sort of straightforward typeface. And um, for each collection that I do, I try to use the same typeface so that because like right here you're seeing a whole bunch of different typefaces, but those are from different collections.
Gotcha.
And
Yeah.
it kind of I think they kind of seem like they work together, but when I'm in it, I try to be kind of like a bit more consistent within the collection, but it just kind of depends what I'm working on. So like this thank you is in the floral era and in the era where I'm kind of feeling the retro florals. And so I
Yeah.
wanted to find something which kind of had more personality. And I had been doing like this kind of thing for a while. And I was just kind of getting bored with it. And I wanted to do something new. And I wanted to kind of go back to my love for typography and for like fun fonts. And for some reason, I had been holding back for a few years. And I just decided, why? Why am I holding back? So,
Yeah.
but
Okay.
I also like to kind of make them feel like my own in a way. So like this one here, have fun or else. I was playing with oscillating typography, going back and forth and like oscillating like depth to like just kind of create this weird mood where kind of like you're floating, but you don't really know what's going on. You're kind of like I don't know. I think I don't know if it makes you feel a little seasick or something, but I just wanted to like create some sort of feeling through the typography. Uh,
Yeah.
and then with this congrats one, we have these like blocks that are looking like they're going to tumble. So I wanted the letters to kind of have a similar feeling. And breaking up the text on this thank you card to kind of like feel like they're pieces that are floating. So just like
Yeah.
exploring
I
different.
love that.
Thank you.
You know what I really dig about it is that again, like it's a literacy with type that you're using, but you know, it's a very simple no agenda typeface, right?
Hmm.
Which is what geometric sans serifs are all about. Like they're all
Yeah.
about, you know, releasing the agenda and having as little voice and being as universal and democratic, I guess, as possible.
Yeah.
And as a result, they're kind of boring and administrative and mid-century,
Can be.
you know,
Yeah.
they
Hmm.
can be, right? Like the Swiss typography movement, right?
Yeah.
It's sort of in there. But then you've taken that sort of like boring administrative vibe,
Yeah.
and you've just totally you've juxtaposed it with something totally funky and fun, and like it's that juxtaposition that I think works for me. The fact that it's kind of a mixture of both, you know, really static and really moving and funky, and those two go really
Yeah.
well together. They create this kind of vibe, which I really think is great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So another part of my kit, I think is language and writing. So linguistic inclinations is what I call it. So for a lot of my cards, especially in the beginning, I like to kind of like flip the sentiment. Like instead of a miss you card, you miss me. So like kind of like infusing this cheeky voice and
Hmm.
a slight bit of like, I don't know, insecurity from the person who's giving it, making it more about the person that's giving it than the person that's receiving it. Um, and just kind of like looking at things that you're used to a certain way and looking at it a different way. So I also had this greetings from memory lane card where it's inspired by like those, you know, greetings from wherever and
Right.
using the abstract shapes. For me, that felt like an abstract way of thinking about like memories for some reason or like a brain. And
Yeah.
so like greetings from memory lane was another way of having a miss you card and a different way of looking at it. And then yeah, my favorite cards are not always the ones that are the best sellers, but I think that like the people that love them love them. So because I don't really do puns, but I like to
Right.
try and like work with language in a way that sort of surprises people. Um, so yeah, this goodbye and gesundheit, in case I'm not there next time you sneeze, it's super niche, but you know, it's accurate, I think.
Yeah.
If you wished I was at your party, your wish has come true.
They're a little bit more cerebral than your typical Hallmark card, right?
Thank
They're
you.
like more brainier, and which, you know.
Um, and yeah, I seem to like to start a card with if you see me crying at your wedding, I'm not, it's something in my eye, kind of like using the future tense, like something that hasn't necessarily happened yet, but kind of covering your bases. I like you romantically was inspired by one that my husband said to me once, like walking away from me, he said, turned around and looked at each other romantically. And I said, "Oh, I like that. I like you romantically." It kind of reminds me of like being a teenager and not knowing like, "Oh, does he like me like that?"
Yeah,
I like you. I
like
like
you.
you like that. I
Yeah,
like you romantically.
yeah.
Um, and then another if statement. Happy birthday if it is today. Have a nice day if it is not. Maybe this goes back to, I don't know, learning code.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I was gonna say.
Um, and so another example of how I use the language is like it's not just on the cards itself. I try to infuse it everywhere. So
Yeah,
I name my collections and I like to give them a story. I like to even like with a specific card. Like there's this card that's part of the Flower Friends series and it looks vaguely like a crocus. The design came first. I had to Google later, like what are some flowers that look like this to try to give it a name. And there's a crocus. So I named her Crocus Madame. And she's an elegant flower who resembles the crocus and has a penchant for brunch. So I want to like infuse personality into all of the work because I think that also grounds it more and helps to helps me as I'm designing it, and it's kind of like mini branding projects within
yeah.
each
I,
collection.
yeah, I was gonna say it's kind of like giving a collection an identity of its
Yeah,
own, and it makes it stand out. Again, creating a system. Like
yeah,
you're a business, you're a brand, but then you have micro
hmm,
lines inside that brand that all kind of work together. There's a consistency throughout, but each
yeah,
one is unique, just like a typeface, right? It
right,
has to be.
yeah,
Okay,
true. Hmm.
interesting.
And so then photography is another big part of my story. I have always loved photography, taking pictures, and when I started working on my Darlin, I had to learn to take my own pictures. One, because I was interested in it, and once I
Yeah,
became interested in it, I just love the styling process, and it's very time consuming. And so sometimes I have gone years without taking new pictures, which is a bummer. But when I've tried to outsource it, I've not been able to like relay the vision.
yeah, yeah,
And one time it worked when I did outsources when we worked together. But
yeah.
and that's when I
That's
was
that.
first learning the lighting and all that. But
Hmm.
once I kind of learned how to do that, I just kind of like try to do it myself. So I have a space set up in my studio now where I can try and do the photography myself. And so yeah, I'm trying to like extend the story of the cards when I'm doing the photos. For the most part, like give them a voice and a personality and kind of like coming from what they are in a way. Like I think this card, this heart card, flower heart, is
Yeah.
shy. And so I feel like the way that she's speaking out like this kind of brings out, her shyness.
Mm.
And um I've always really liked to play up the pattern in my cards. So doing these like pattern repeats in the photo by using multiples is something that I feel like extends the concept of the work into like the photography.
Yeah.
Um, I also really like showing the depth of the cards, like by showing them open, photographing them at different angles. Um, and like this tangled up with you, extending the art by like using the props. And it's kind of the opposite of being like super minimal with your product photos and just having a white background and let the thing like exist for itself. Because I don't know, I think that the photography is kind of an art form in itself and it just helps to keep telling the brand story. So
Yeah.
I that's
Absolutely.
something that feels important to me. Um and this is washi tape glamour shot. This is more photography here of this was actually a mailer that I did for a trade show to invite retailers to come to my booth at a trade show. It was a fortune teller, and so they would play with the fortune teller, and then it would reveal to them what their discount was in my booth, but they had to come and play in my booth. So this is I did a glamour shot of this as well because it was a full designed piece. Um,
And they'll go back those, so those items are not like the what do they call those things? The
fortune teller, yeah,
yeah, the fortune
or
teller.
a cootie catcher.
Right.
That's
Right.
the other name.
Of course, that's the other name. Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you design those as part of like that's interesting because that's almost
Yeah.
like it's
It
almost
was
like
a marketing piece.
it's like a game asset. It's kind of
It is.
interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Okay, okay. I just wanted to. I recognize them, and I wanted to make sure that's what they were.
I
Cootie
think I won an
catchers.
award for this too. There was a marketing award and there was some stationery awards and there was a marketing award and I'm pretty sure I won or yeah, no, I think I did win.
I
So,
I believe it. I believe I believe that story.
and this, I just wanted to show this because I thought it was kind of interesting. This is where I started back in like 2016, 2015. This is like where I was at and I was starting to learn about photography. I was taking my own photos, but I thought it's interesting to see the evolution. Like I
Mm,
feel like my voice is still the same as far as like, I don't know, styling. Maybe it's a bit more rigid than it is now. Much more pastels, but I just thought it was interesting to see the evolution. So I
yeah,
thought I would include this because the photography and even the color has still been part of that kit of parts for all the years. But it does look a little different.
yeah, for sure.
So I also want to talk about the meticulous details that I care about that are part of my kit of parts. And something that I have always loved to do is to just infuse language or just if there's ever a spot where it's like it's free for me to do more design, I'm going to do more design. So the back of the card, I have my branding, but instead of just saying, designed in Brooklyn, printed in the USA, depending what the card is, I have different language on the back there. So this one that says designed in Brooklyn, waiting for you to call is paired up with this envelope that says call me. And
Mm,
then there's some over here that says designed in Brooklyn on your birthday that goes with birthday cards. I have one that says designed in Brooklyn with baby fever for baby cards. So again, just trying to extend the voice into
yep,
a spot and it's kind of hidden. It's an Easter egg for anyone that's
yep.
going to find it. So, but I think that's
I
cool too.
think I think that's super important to like. That's something that I don't know if people think a lot about is about the Easter egg.
Yeah,
Like
I love
we've
an
been
Easter egg.
yeah, they're really very thoughtful and they're kind of like winks to people who have a love for packaging anyway, like
Yeah.
in the
Hmm.
and the presentation. So I
Right.
think they're super important. They hit people on a different level. I'm
Yeah.
also seeing something else here, which is I mean, we were talking about also the last two talks, we were talking about different levels of things, right? Hitting people in different levels, I think is
Yeah.
an important strategy, right? There's also some one other thing I'm seeing here, which is in the left with your logo design and then the type on these envelopes or letterhead or are these letterhead or are they the back of envelopes you
These
said?
these are the back of the envelopes. These are just
Okay.
a specific line that I called notevelopes where the note was on the
Yeah.
envelope.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of reminds me of it's something very, again, mid-century
Hmm.
retro 50s, 60s
Yeah.
Swiss typography with like the use of bars and, it's like it's in the sans serif typeface.
Yes.
It's
Hmm.
very 50s, 60s. So it's like you're always sort of like you're using eras, right? And like and
Totally. Yeah.
where you're drawing from, whether you know
Yeah.
you're doing or not.
I
And
know.
I think it really works
Felt it.
because well, yeah, because so much of what you're doing with stationery and packaging letters, it's so retro already,
That's a good
right?
point. Yeah.
It's like email, text messaging,
Right.
WhatsApp, Discord. We have all these different ways to communicate,
Yeah.
and then you're out here with this product line for people that want to communicate through snail mail and like in much
Right.
older way,
Hmm.
and therefore you kind of almost have to, I think, harken back to these older aesthetics, these older eras, because it makes people feel like they're in that world again, right? I mean,
That's
that's the
cool.
way
Yeah.
that's how I
Yeah.
look at it. It's like
Yeah.
I want to be in a world like my grandparents lived in, where if I had to really show if I had to like show that I love somebody, I had to do it in
Yeah.
some, letter form, right? It's
Yeah.
like a beautiful tradition.
Yeah. It's always nice to get a card. I should write more of them though. I don't write enough of them.
Yeah, yeah, neither do I. You make too many. You make too many. That's
Yes.
why.
So another spot I wanted to show the details, and this is a little bit more packaging,
Mhm.
is so this is an assorted box set. I call it a hypnotic holiday. That's another spot where we get some of that language, some of that
Yeah.
voice, because there are hypnotic patterns, kind of like non-traditional holiday cards, but they're an assorted set. And so something I had to think about in this assorted set is like, how is someone going to know what's inside? And because
Mm,
they're sold to my retailers, how will my retailers sell them? So first, I need to have a sticker that says what's inside. So we've got, can I zoom in here?
Yeah.
This 8 assorted cards and envelopes, 4 fun designs. So telling what's inside, still infusing some personality in there. And then I also created an insert to go in the back to tell them what's inside. And I could have just kept it straightforward, put like a sticker or just kept them straight, but I was sort of referencing back to how I take photographs. And so I designed this little layout on the back that's a template for any other assorted set that I have. It shows the design sets inside. And the back of that little insert is, oops, how do I do this? The back of that insert has these patterned, just like a blank pattern on the back that someone could use as a piece of art.
Yeah.
It was another spot where it didn't cost me any extra to print on the back. So why wouldn't I? And
Right.
so now instead of throwing away this insert, this informative insert, someone, if they liked the pattern, they could frame it or put it on a corkboard as inspiration. I like to do that kind of thing. So I
Yeah.
feel like someone else might too.
Yeah.
Uh, and then another spot that I was thinking about, like the packaging of this piece was, I love a card spine. I think officially it's called the score, but we'll call it the spine forever. And because there's different patterns, stack them up next to each other and they create this cool pattern.
Yeah.
And so I wanted the pattern to show on both sides. So we do 4 cards and then flip them in the opposite direction, do the other 4, so that no matter which side you're looking at of the spine of this card box, you're going to see that spine pattern. Uh,
Wow.
and there have been a couple of moments where my printer has not scored in the right spot, and that spot is just white, and I freak out and I say, "You didn't, why don't I see a pattern on my spine?" And I think they might think I'm crazy because they're like, "Why do you need that?" But I do. I designed it in, and I've extended my file so that there's enough room for this to happen. So I'm
It's
like,
every detail. It's
I
every
know,
detail is
yeah.
important. Yep.
So really care about all that stuff. So that is, yeah, so those are my assorted box sets.
Yeah.
And some more spots where you can see some details of my packaging are, here's the washi tape. And we have a sticker on each washi tape that matches the design that is inside.
Right.
Um, the sticker for my box sets, it's now becoming holographic. My previous one I showed you was black, so I have some
Yeah.
discrepancy with my packaging and some which I'm not psyched about, but it's always evolving. And as I introduce new typefaces, sometimes I'm like, well, I kind of want to change the typefaces on my packaging. And so I started to do that with my box set sticker. And it's also there in my washi and also my gift wrap. So I'm happy about that. But the problem is when you have so much inventory that you have
Mm.
to be inconsistent. So
Yeah.
now I'm a little inconsistent because I have inventory, like these stickers, I have to use them before I can change them. Um, so as much as I would like all of my packaging to be consistent, right now I'm in a spot where I feel like it's not exactly how I would like it to be, but that's a struggle. I'm,
I think that
I'm
that's
trying
your
to keep it.
detail.
What's that?
That's your detail oriented mind.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
But I do still try to infuse the personality wherever I can. Like I was saying, like this gift wrap, it again, it wasn't any more cost to make a die cut shape than a
Yeah.
circle. So I thought I should try to just add some more interest and
Hmm.
3 sheets of pretty cute gift wrap instead of 3 sheets of gift wrap, just add a little
Yeah.
personality, let them know what the brand is about through language.
Hmm.
Oh, and then as I mentioned, I love a card spine. So again, more
Yeah.
card spines.
Yeah.
Um,
It's interesting. They vibrate and randomize in a totally different way
yeah,
because of that detail. Like now you can see them in a different, it creates like a new emergent thing, which I think is great.
totally. Yeah. And I think of
Yeah.
that as part of my packaging too.
Yeah.
This little it's random, but it's still
Well,
part of it.
okay. So here's the thing you mentioned, like spines, which is like a book.
Yeah.
It's really like
Yeah.
a book binding term, right? But
Mhm.
still, it's funny because like since the pandemic, people's bookshelves are now like part of their social messaging. Like they have not behind mine because I just have a
Oh yeah, that's
like
true.
it's like everyone's got to have a smart bookshelf if you're going on the air, you know. And I feel like nowadays, those kind of details are actually the things that really do send the biggest message,
Oh,
right?
if
About
only
who,
someone had a shelf of card spines behind
yeah.
that.
Well,
That
that's
would
what
be
I'm saying is
great.
like, having everything be beautiful at any angle and being presentable is
Yeah,
kind of the point. So I feel like
yeah.
even though for you it may seem like maybe I'm getting too much in the weeds, I don't really think so. I think you're just like you're just cluing into something that's really becoming more important
Totally.
socially. Anyway, that's what I would say about that.
Um, so more of the little details. Well, here's my daughter helping me sticker some washi. She's my little assistant sometimes. And yeah, here's a little bit more of a look at the washi. And then here on the right is an example of an order that was going to a retailer. And so cards are sold in a minimum of sixes when they're sold wholesale. So there's usually like big stacks of cards going out. And these are little gift wrap strips. So if we have
Mm,
like gift wrap that is like imperfect or just not
yeah,
what we're selling, we can cut them up into little strips and we use those as our belly bands to
yeah,
just add more of that branding.
yep.
Um, and it's like branding and it's also kind of like
It's a
it's
sustainable way to,
sustainable, exactly.
yeah,
And using our washi, so like really like driving the brand by using our own products. Um, and also like when it is such a perfect fit, it just makes me really happy. We always try to like make it look really nice when they open it and receive it. Um, and so I'm gonna close with this H2H, which I'm calling human to human. Um, so even though we're living in a hyper digital age, and maybe because we are,
mm,
I think people are striving to ways for tactile connection, which is, I think, why, brands like mine can still exist.
yeah,
Warmth felt by a simple written note or thoughtfully chosen gift, no matter how small, is a human personal touch that can't be replaced. And we try to keep that human touch in all the orders with a handwritten note, or sometimes someone will ask us to write a note. Like this person, I for whatever reason probably didn't have time to get the card sent to her and then send it to somebody, but so like we will write the handwritten note for the person to kind of like help
yeah.
keep that human touch there. And um my business is technically business to business, B2B, but I'm actually friends with some of my retailers and became friends with them from, working together. And um, I, sell to everyday people as well. And so I don't know. I just feel like because the work helps me connect, because the businesses that I work with feel like people, it feels more like H2H, human to human.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So yeah, I think that I don't know. I think that it's important and it does have a place and, you know,
Hmm.
long live snail mail.
Yes, that's great. Um, and also fund the USPS. Let's also mention that. Like we need
Yes.
more money to
And
that.
the USPS. Mhm.
Yeah, very important. So one thing you led off with, which is your sort of tagline, is this idea of romanticism,
Yeah.
which has like a very long thread just in art history in general, but throughout culture. But could you kind of go into a little bit more what you mean, just to
Yeah.
clarify? Because I mean, there are a few different senses of that word, right? Depending
Yeah.
on the context. But what do you mean by romance, and what's your ideal
So
here?
for me, what I think about it is that like vintage shop feeling or that feeling of like something from the past has this allure that is like,
Mm,
we romanticize these like bygone eras for things that we could never really experience. And
yeah,
I don't know what it is about them. Maybe there is a history there or a mystery or something like that. But when I find something in a vintage shop that I just think is, I don't know. I just like respond to these things that seem like one of a kind, I guess, and
yeah.
that have they just feel like they're from another time, and there's just this like mystery about it, which is the romance for me. Not It's not like a romantic romance.
Right. Although I think that's also there, but you mean like romantic in the capital R historical sense,
I
that
think so.
it's like This kind of like goes back to one of the things I mentioned last week, which was what John Baudrillard used to talk about, which is like the simulacra. So the simulacra is like kind of like a copy of a thing that no longer exists,
Mm-hmm.
right? And we that's all we have now in many ways. That's
Right.
what we operate in. We operate in a
Yeah.
world of signs and symbols that point to a way of life that doesn't exist, that we can't have anymore,
Right.
but
That's true.
we value it, right? And I feel like that's kind of what you're seizing on here, is this
True. That's
simulacra of a,
it.
yeah. How
Yeah.
do you feel about that? Like, what's your thought on that?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that does sound kind of accurate. And because yeah, we can't latch on to that, but
Yeah,
there's something about it and we want to. And so I I think there's something cool about trying to bring that to just everyday moments and
yeah,
in those moments because those are the moments that we spend most of our lives in. So
yeah, yeah.
um,
There's a question here in the Q&A that I just want to read. As a small business owner who sells stationery and related products like stickers, I am interested in outsourcing as a growth strategy. Can you provide us this is from Juliana, by the way. Really fabulous designer, by the way. If you ever
cool.
need somebody, you should contact this
Awesome.
person.
Mhm.
I'll connect you guys. But can
Okay.
you please provide us with some advice or recommendations based on your experience in outsourcing products, specifically washi tape?
Oh, washi tape. Okay, yeah. So I had to do a lot of research for this. I did that's the one product that I had to make abroad because for me I have to think about wholesaling it because I
Yeah,
wholesale it. I sell it for half price of whatever it's on my website to my shop so that my shops can also make money. So the more you buy, the larger quantities you buy, the lower your prices.
hmm,
So depending on what you want to do, like if you just want to try out a small run to just try to sell to like people on your email list or your Instagram followers, then
yeah,
probably do a smaller run and still, make money
yeah,
on that. But yeah, something like washi tape has been tricky because it's also like every time I need to restock, it's going to take me about 2 months to get a restock because it comes
yeah.
from a long way. They take a long time, and I have to be ready to commit to, I don't know, about get buying about 1,200 rolls total. So which for me is a lot.
Yeah, no, that's a lot. There's another question here, and I want to piggyback on this question. The question's general, like when, where, and how do you feel confident about your creative direction?
Mhm.
But I'm specifically interested in colors. Your use of color is very, notable and distinct, and beautiful. I love color, but I have trouble like choosing them, knowing which combinations are right. Do you have like a strategy or like how do you choose colors? Like what is your process? Is it physical? Is it digital? Is it a combo? Like what do you do to get there?
I mean, it's digital. I
Yeah,
probably respond first to something that maybe that I saw, and liked and like start from there. But I mean, when I first started doing stationery, I was doing letterpress, and so that was two colors. I was limited to two
right.
colors. And so I just like bright, punchy colors. So I would do, the two color combinations. But once I
Hmm.
like let go of letterpress, I kind of just like took all those two color combinations I was working with and I just put them all together. And I mean, it's really just the colors of the rainbow that I'm working with, I feel like.
Yeah,
The brightest, punchiest colors of the rainbow. But it's just experimentation. And sometimes I'll see a combination that I really like just out in the world and maybe want to try to work with that a little bit more. But for the most part, it kind of depends on what I'm working on. So like there's
yeah,
the collection Boom Boom Bloom, which is just these very simple flowers, and each card has three colors on it, I think. And so for that, I kind of look at them as a series and I see how they look together, as well as how they look alone. Because sometimes it's frustrating when there's a color combination you really like, and then you make another card and using the same color combination, but you're like, but I have to do something different so that they're not exactly the same. So there's
yeah.
a bit of a struggle there because again, it's a system of things
Right.
making that work together. So even if this thing works by itself, I still need to just keep experimenting and see how they look as a whole.
You were talking about having an interest in fashion design.
Mhm.
which I share. Like I love fashion design,
Cool.
but we would never have like the bravery to get into it. But you said that I mean, you also mentioned that you kind of started this love of patterning and whatnot by looking and being sort of surrounded by your mother's clothing, and so it's like a visceral thing.
Yeah.
And then then you showed some of your designs that were on actual clothing, right? On people,
Yeah.
on like, which it must be gratifying to see that. But my question is, on clothing, it's a kind of a different kind of packaging for the human
Yeah.
body. And as a result, it moves, right? It moves
Yeah.
with the body, and it has to do certain things to highlight or hide the body underneath. Like it has clothing has a different job to do. In
Yeah.
other words, than say like your typical package. How did it feel to see your designs like on a body in motion? Did it change how you think about what you do? Because all your stuff is on static
Right.
designs, right? But what did it
Yeah.
mean to see it on a human, on a person?
I mean, it was cool. It was really cool. It was kind of like a dream because I would love to do
Yeah,
more stuff like that. But actually, a lot of times when I'm designing a pattern, I'm thinking about it on clothing. I'm thinking,
interesting.
would I like to wear this? Because
Mm,
because I love clothes and pattern, and I would really love to have my work on more textiles. So I think about that a lot already.
yeah.
Yeah.
And in terms of like, this is not necessarily related to clothing, but just in general, I mean, you worked with letterpress a lot, and I think it's notable that you said that that sort of, because you have limitations with letterpress historically, and even now that you don't have on a computer, um, some of those limitations in material based, right? Just like what kind
Yeah.
of inks and what kind of paper you can use.
Sure. Yeah.
But how do you approach the selection of materials in your design process, like different types of paper, different card stocks, different weights? What kind of factors do you consider when you choose materials, bows, wrapping, all that stuff?
So in the beginning, when I was switching from letterpress to digital, I did try a bunch of different papers.
Yeah.
And I found that with my vibe, this like nostalgic vibe, I needed an off-white paper. So I
Mm,
tried bright white papers and recycled paper and a few other kinds. And I just found this one that's off-white and smooth. And if they ever are not in stock, like I
you go out of
devastated.
business.
Yeah, because there have been like paper shortages sometimes, and I've had to use a different paper. And now sometimes I have a few random cards on this other paper that's slightly textured and it's beautiful. A lot of card makers use it, but it's not off-white enough for me. And it just the texture doesn't work for my line, in my opinion. I like the smooth. So that seems like just like a small detail, but it's so crucial. Like I feel like
Mm,
off-white is my unsung one of like my core unsung colors because with wrapping paper, they don't have off-white. So I have to fake
yeah.
the off-white. And I put that in the background. And it's never quite the same as the cards, which drives me crazy, but I guess it's normal.
Yeah.
Let it go because there's no way I'm ever gonna match it. Um,
Yeah.
but so I'm always trying to kind of like keep that consistent across the board. Even in like my presentation, you'll see like the backgrounds are off-white and not white because
Well, I mean, this is true, and not just in physical material design, but in web design, app
Mhm.
design,
Yeah,
digital design. Like this is now a newer sort of zeitgeist, I guess, or a paradigm in design, but it's never good to go full white, full black, right? That's
True.
like
Yeah.
the traditional web, like from the early '90s or late
Yes.
'80s. That's black and white, and that's it.
Yeah, yeah,
And blue for links, right? And then along came designers and
yeah.
CSS and all that stuff.
Mhm.
Thank God. But now like the paradigm is to use like subtle grays and charcoals for
Right.
type, and off whites, and for very very light grays for, but usually like a little tinge of brown, right? Like a little eggshell type of thing. So I wonder how, my question for you based on that would be, how much of your love for that off white comes from your background in type design? Is there a connection?
I don't know. I think that it's more about just like softening the look of it. And
Right.
I think
Okay.
maybe it might even make it feel less digital to me. I think when I saw
Hmm.
some of my designs on this like white paper, I was just like, no, this looks like it was printed on like, I don't know, like a laser printer or something.
Yeah,
But
it looks sterile.
yeah,
Yeah.
it looks sterile, exactly. But somehow just having it on that off-white, it softened everything and I don't know, it just changed the vibe of the designs a lot.
So also, I mean, these are really great questions to be able to have to tackle as a designer, but I would think, and we were talking a little bit about shipping from overseas and using wrapping paper as like the belly for certain things, like reusing materials, right?
Yes.
But in what ways, what other ways do you prioritize sustainability and environmental consideration when you're getting these different papers and inks and things? Like, how much do the factors like how much does sustainability factor into what you're doing when you're sitting there with all this stuff at your fingertips and you could design anything?
Right.
How much does this like idea of impending climate doom
Yeah.
does it like factor in?
Well, I mean, I first of all, we reuse as much of the packaging materials that we receive as we can. So we have a big
Yeah,
stack of just like boxes to be cut down and used for filler. Um,
yeah,
and some of the like the plastic that the cards have to go in, they come in its own plastic. And so
yeah.
those we reuse to kind of package other things. I never buy bubble wrap because I receive it in things that I purchase. So we reuse that to
We
help
reuse that. Yeah,
orders. Yeah, so we just reuse a lot of packaging, and it definitely weighs on me that the plastic that I have to use for protecting the cards and the gift wrap. Some people order gift wrap in sheets, so there's no plastic there, but when they order it in rolls, we have to use plastic. But
yeah,
it's like right now it's kind of unavoidable because that's the state of how people
yeah,
that's the state of retail basically here in the US. I think in the UK they are maybe even also Europe, they're kind of like better about doing away with the sleeves, and I'm hoping we're going in that direction. But I'm
yeah,
not such a big brand that I can be like, no, I'm not doing sleeves and then like risk losing all my business. So
yeah. And
I give the
as
option.
yeah, I mean that's important. And as I said, it's like I think we talked about this earlier that not today, but it may not I don't really think it's your responsibility. It's not we're just consumers and makers and we only have so much power. We can't move mountains.
Yeah,
We could just kind of push people into certain directions.
right.
It does have to be enshrined in law as it is in Canada, UK, Europe to some extent.
It would be nice if
Last
it
question.
was, but
Yeah, well, hey, we'll see what's happening in Washington, and this could be at the state level, I guess. But I have one. We have time for one last question,
all
and
right.
it's coming from a student. Kevin's asking, "Hey there, Priyanka. Priyanka, first of all, thank you for being here and sharing your insight with us. For a design student in New York, what do you think is the best way for a student to get into the stationery industry? Maybe not necessarily having our brand, but working for an already established brand. Is it with internships, networking, or just looking for jobs the traditional way? What's your advice? What's your just global career advice? Something like that.
Well, I guess um find brands that you love, follow them on Instagram and just like be like aware of that world and just like know
Yeah,
a lot about that world and who the companies are to work for. There's definitely bigger companies out there, and it depends where I guess you're located here, but there's stationery companies all over of various sizes. Well, there is I took paper camp, which helped me a lot to learn about the world of stationery, but that was for selling stationery. So if you did want to like, create your own brand, I would really recommend paper camp. Um, and I think there's a lot of resources there as well. There's like a forum that we have, and you could probably like look for jobs in there. But I don't know that there's just like a resource for of like a ton of stationery companies.
what about like trade
Job board, I
shows?
mean. Trade
Would
shows are good. Yeah, trade shows
yeah,
are great. I mean, that's where I go to like sell my work wholesale.
Yeah.
To attend, you could probably attend as a guest if you wanted to like go and research stationery companies and see if anyone's hiring. But
Yeah.
people are coming from all over, so I don't know how like useful that is. Um, and yeah, I think just like stay involved in that community as much as you can just by following people on Instagram and knowing the companies that are out there and engaging with them and letting them know that you're available. Because I think
Yeah.
people are always looking for help. I'm looking for help like with sleeving, with production.
Don't threaten me. I'll send you names.
Okay.
Well, Priyanka, thank you so much. That's all the time we have, but thank you so much for meeting with us and taking time out of your day and
Sure.
really just giving like a lot of valuable information. Um, and thank you for everybody for attending, for asking questions, for being engaged. Really appreciate it. Priyanka, have a good weekend. And
Thanks so much for having me.
yeah, of course, I invite everybody to come back next week. We'll have the fourth talk in this lecture series and we'll keep it rolling. Thank you, everybody. Have a good weekend.
Bye.
Bye bye.